Hello friends and viewers, and welcome to my pre-release character analysis for Agata the Silver Wolf Queen. As usual with the typical introduction, this isn't a character guide, this is my preliminary review of Agata's characteristics and skills prior to her global launch. My goal is to help you, the viewer, understand what Agata will bring to Sword of Convallaria's current character roster, and any skill and gear interactions will be tested and reviewed after release, or someone smarter than me and with more Chinese or Taiwan experience will correct me. All the stat and skill information in this deck is courtesy of the No Potion website. Starting off with the basics, Agata is a sword-wielding melee watcher. She has a base speed of 151, placing her between the speed of seekers and destroyers. She is a complete damage dealer with some potential for off healing, but she otherwise has a different style of play compared to some other melee watchers on our roster right now. Gloria, Flare, and Butterfly, who are all more support oriented. She is a member of the Drifter and Alacrity categories, so she can benefit from leaders' auras such as Miguel and Cole. Her trait is Silver Wolf Queen, increasing her HP and deals piercing damage that scales with her HP as well. So, this means HP increasing gear such as Newborn Blade and Fool's Naivety are reasonable starting points to increase her power. Note that in her description, her trait description, it reads, after attacking, for each stack of wound the target has, Agata inflicts piercing damage. So based on how it's written, it's possible the piercing damage effect from her trait will trigger from instant damage trinkets and Course of Fortune, so long as the target has wound. Now reading the description again, she inflicts wound upon dealing physical damage. But if the target has wound following physical damage and Agata attacks them, she inflicts that piercing damage equal to 10% of her HP. So my reaction is just based on how this tooltip is written. Any form of attack, such as from a Flying Blade, Arm Guard, or Roaring Flint, or the Course of Fortune AoE, should trigger that piercing damage effect, but won't inflict wound. At star level 3, she gains one move from Woven Awakening, and at star level 5, she gains an additional one move from Woven Awakening again, with Jump and Climb as well. This will make her, at star level 5, a total move of 5 tiles, so with her speed, she can play similarly to a Seeker. Getting into the wound effect, the debuff, wound increases non-percentage piercing damage by 12% per stack and reduces healing received by 30% up to 4 stacks. So not only for the non-percentage piercing damage from Agata herself, it can also benefit allies and really shut down healing on a particular target. Percentage piercing damage ordinarily refers to damage proportional to the target's HP. Non-percentage piercing damage are piercing damage effects that do not scale with the target's HP, but instead scale with another stat, such as the character's physical or magic attack or physical defense. So some examples of other units who should be able to take advantage of wound include Karis's Cumulative Punishment and Punish the Evil, Suppression's Magic Suppression trait, Lash's Lash trait and Whipple Blame, and Knighted Guard's Spiky Shield. Silver Severing is a rank 3 option and instant attack that also deals piercing damage and instantly inflicts 2 stacks of wound. She has 2 skill options, Taste of Prey and Queen's Announcement. Taste of Prey is one of her options at rank 7 that increases her movement by 2 tiles, so long as there are enemies within 6 tiles of her. 6 tiles is pretty wide, and she is a melee character, so she should always be in proximity of something to kill. So this passive skill alone makes her movement on par with the Seeker, and her trait at higher star levels allows her to traverse even farther than Seekers can, Seekers having a base move of 5 tiles. Queen's Announcement is an option at rank 3, an AoE attack that inflicts Vulnerable 2 and Speed 2 debuffs. At 2 energy cost with no cooldown, and paired with her Taste of Prey passive, she has the potential to cast this every turn and deal major AoE damage. So long as she's casting it in consecutive turns, then she capitalizes on her own vulnerable to debuff. Feast is her major single target attack. I believe this should be her ultimate ability. It deals damage 4 times, which means 4 opportunities to critical strike, and this also gives her baseline self-sustain, always recovering 40% of her HP. Using this also incentivizes her to be healthy, performing an AoE heal on allies after cast. So for the highest damage potential, you would ideally want her to be healthy and cast this anyway, but it's also a source of self-sustain for her own self-recovery. What I do want to verify after release is if multi-hit abilities such as Feast and her basic attack does 2 strikes, if the 2 abilities will inflict a wound for each hit or for each unique cast. Majority of abilities are ordinarily based off each unique cast, so I imagine wound will lean that way, but if it's for each hit, so multi-hits will trigger multiple stacks of wound, that would be nice, but we'll see after launch. Potential gear. I think Newborn Blade is a great option to increase both her HP and physical attack. She can be a capable crit dealer, especially being part of the Alacrity category, benefiting from Cole's or Nurgle's auras, so Void Stab is a completely fine option. Trinkets, the usuals, Flying Blade, Arm Guard, and Ring Flint. You can't go wrong with these as additional damage sources, and potentially trigger the piercing damage effect from her trait. Crystal Burst Armor to increase her health pool. She does have a strike back reaction. I think, it's worth considering, but other characters may prefer Crystal Burst Armor a lot more. Spring Pill is also potentially a good idea. Feast that I just covered, and she also has a reaction trait that triggers when she's healthy. Spring Pill might be helpful just to keep her in that healthy status. Tarot's Fool's Naivety, I think, is still a great option. She should boast a pretty high health pool, not only from her trait, but also from her skill set as well. Magician, just good for general damage, even greater if you're primarily using her Queen's Announcement AoE attack. Otherwise, I think Course of Fortune and Verdict of Justice are absolutely worthwhile for damage also. Some potential questions you may or may not have is, will Agata replace one of your Seekers? So based on my review, Agata is a sword-wielding Watcher who plays like a Seeker while not being a Seeker. This potentially makes her weaker than Seekers when fighting against Breakers, but would also make her stronger than Seekers when fighting against Defenders. So she can play like a Seeker, boasting similar speed, similar damage potential, but because of that, counter triangle, she has, different advantages and disadvantages compared to Seekers. So she's a flexible pick. She could replace a Seeker when the situation demands for it, or you still might pick a Seeker over her if you are in a Breaker dominant heavy map. Who should you play Agata with? I think some starting options include Simona and Alexei to make some form of an ice team. All of these units are immune to frosty tiles. You could consider Cole and or Miguel for their unique leaders' auras in the Alacrity and Drifter groups. You can also pair her with any units that deal non-percentage piercing damage, such as Karis, to utilize her wound trait effect. Should you pull for Agata? All in all, she is a melee unit with high move, potentially rivaling and surpassing Seekers. She's a Watcher, so while she may have lesser base stats, she is a melee damage dealer with no counters. This makes her a flexible melee option, so if you're lacking in Breaker Seeker numbers, she is a solid unit to pick up. She will have a high HP pool. She possesses self-sustain through Feast. She has the ability to dodge with her reaction trait and another one of her rank 3 skills. Excuse me. So she's capable of holding her own for several turns. I wouldn't say you could use her as a tank, but between her high HP pool, her ability to heal herself, and being able to dodge, she can definitely be trusted to hold her own. I will be pulling for Agata. No surprise, I pull on every unit release. But I look forward to hear what you think, what you plan to do, and any thoughts you might have about how you want to play her as. Thank you so much for watching, and best of luck on your pulls. I will have a guide ready for her after release sometime next weekend as well.